Hey Luke,
How you doing, Jason and Mia? How you doing?
Hi, yeah, I'm good,
very
thank
well,
you.
thanks, mate. Yourself?
Yes, mate. Can't complain. Can't complain at all.
Good man, good man. Thanks for taking time out to catch up with us.
That's all right. That's what I'm here for.
Yeah, defo. Looking forward to having a chat and seeing how you can help us on our journey, basically.
Absolutely, absolutely, guys. Fire away and let me know. Well, just fill me in on, I guess, where you're at and
Yeah,
what you've been up to, and then we'll go from there.
so good to give you an idea of our current situation then.
Yep.
Uh, so I work in cybersecurity,
Mm-hmm.
uh, in the sales part of it. I used to be in technical, moved over into sales probably about 4 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
um, in cybersecurity, and been doing that full time.
Mm-hmm.
The plan is to basically step away from that for the next 3 to 6 months,
Yep.
uh, and focus on our property business,
Yep.
and our journey going forward.
Mm-hmm.
Mia used to be in retail.
Mm-hmm.
She left retail back in June of this year
Yep.
to focus on our deal sourcing business.
Okay.
So Mia was heading that up and running that on her own, basically.
Well done,
Uh,
Mia.
yeah.
Thank you.
Um, that deal sourcing business has been all right. We've learned a lot from it. We've made a number of contacts. We've made some good moves. We made some bad decisions and stuff like that as well. It's
Mm-hmm.
all been a learning curve.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Not made masses of money from it or anything, but it was
Mm-hmm.
more just to take action and get the ball
Is that
rolling.
is that deal sourcing for buy to let or rent to
It
rent?
was for overall, yeah, it was different types of deals.
Okay.
Yeah, managed to put four together, sold
Okay. That's good.
two did go. So yeah,
Um,
yeah,
Okay.
that covered flips, BRRs, uh,
rent to
rent
SA.
to SA, social housing.
Yeah.
So it was quite a lot of stuff that it was covering.
Mm-hmm.
So she's definitely learned a lot and passed over some of that
Mhm.
knowledge to me as well.
Yeah, for
Uh,
sure. Good going.
but that's predominantly been Mia running that side of things. She
Mhm.
definitely knows more about that than I do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, So, what else are we up to? We're landlords ourselves. We've got a single property. We've got our own residential that we obviously live in with our kids.
Yep.
What we did with our previous property, which was our first property that we ever bought,
Yep.
was turned that into a rental property.
Mm-hmm.
So we rent that out to a couple. We've been
Mm-hmm.
renting that out now for about 3 years or
Yeah.
something along those lines.
Nice. Nice.
Um, that's been bringing in good rental yield. Um, that property is now in our company name,
Mm-hmm.
a separate company, limited company name, purely just for that property.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, that's recently just happened.
Good move.
Um, we also refinanced it to pull out some funds.
Yep.
Um, we refinanced our residential property as well because that shot up in value
Mm-hmm.
over the last couple of years. So we
Good.
refinanced that, pulled money out of that as well.
Yep.
Um, so that's given us a good amount of capital to work with,
Sure.
um, and also money that I brought in from commission from my sales role as well.
Sure.
Um, in terms of what we want to do, obviously we want to utilize the funds that we've got, um, to in a way that maximizes it in a smart way that we can one run a business for ourselves. I don't really want to be working for anyone else anymore. Neither does she.
Bad enough.
Um, yeah, I've been in the corporate world for a long time,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, it's a ball ache. So
Yeah. Well,
I
you
don't
can't.
want
You have to
to
get to that stage.
Yeah, to want this enough
Yeah.
and to go
Yeah. You have to
forward.
get to that point where you've had enough of it, really.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. I mean, I like working with people.
Mm-hmm.
I like certain aspects of my job.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and there's obviously other aspects that I don't like. Bosses and authority and all of that type of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
There's pros and cons to both, I guess. The business is just as difficult in its own way. You've got, I suppose you can't really clock off at 5 when you're running your own business. You've got to put the work in around the clock.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
pros and cons.
The graft side of it, that's not an issue for
Mhm.
me.
Mm-hmm.
The hours that I work when I'm doing my corporate job, it's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of hours. You never, like you say, you never really switch off. You're always thinking about, who you need to look after, what you need to do, keep them
Hmm.
happy, this, that, the other,
Sure.
building pipeline, all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, that side of it's not a problem. Putting in the
Hmm.
time and effort, not an issue.
No.
It's more answering to other people.
Yeah.
It is my pain point.
And building your own thing as well for yourself, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. You want to build wealth for myself and the family,
Yeah.
build our own thing rather than putting money
I
in other people's pockets.
fully understand that, dude.
In terms of aspirations, then, so we want to be essentially generating cash flow that replaces the salaries,
Sure.
because we want to step away from obviously the corporate jobs and stuff.
Yep.
Obviously working for ourselves, and we also want to be creating something that we can pass down to our two boys, something that they can get involved in as well.
Hmm.
My eldest is 15, the youngest is 13, two lads, two completely different personalities. Um, One very focused on academic, the other one not so much.
Well, one might be an entrepreneur, the other one might be a high
Exactly.
academic.
Yeah, one's very academic, one's more like me, to be fair. Very much so. Me and the little one are more two peas in a pod.
Yeah.
More creative, more ideas,
Hmm.
more willing to step outside the box.
Yeah.
Whereas the eldest is a bit more, stuck in his
Pen and
box.
paper, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you
Yeah,
get different characters, don't you? You know.
exactly. They both bring their own,
Well, you need both. You need
yeah.
both. Even in business, right? You need visionaries and you also need operations as well, you know. So you kind of have to have both, right? So hopefully maybe both of them can be running a business in 5, 10 years time.
Ideally, yeah, that would be great. So we spoke about where we're at with the current business.
Hmm.
So that's all set up. Deal sourcing business is all set up.
Hmm.
It's compliant. So that's got ICO, it's got PRS,
The
Hmm.
it's
insurance
got
is
insurance.
up to date with the AML.
Yeah, AML and everything is all in place for that.
Cool.
What we're looking to do with the rent to rent then is to run that through the existing business, because we're going to be not winding down, that's probably the wrong word, but not really being active in the deal sourcing space.
Pivoting.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So what we'd look to do is to add the relevant SIT code to that business,
Yeah.
and run the rent to rent through that.
Yeah. Okay, cool. That's doable. I wasn't sure where you're going with that, but yeah, if you're going to change the SIC code, then yeah, that should be fine. Just because they are different natures of business, aren't they? One's sourcing and one's management of real estate,
Yeah.
I guess so.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we're going to look to do that. So that'll happen in the next probably a few weeks or
Yeah.
something like that,
Yeah.
to add the relevant SIT code.
Hmm.
In terms of what we've done in the past 2 years, we've done other courses.
You've been busy then?
Yeah, we've been definitely taking,
Yeah.
steps, and just,
Yeah.
we've not been running at pace, but we've definitely been taking steps.
Yeah.
As you can imagine, running a household, a family with two kids as well, ferrying them everywhere and doing all
Of
of that.
course.
It's difficult.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
But you've made progress, so you know.
Yeah, we've managed to squeeze some action into it. I mean, it's
Yeah.
been up and running a year, December, so
Mhm.
it's been a year
Hmm.
since then we've been doing it.
Hmm.
But yeah, I feel I've made some progress in terms
Mhm.
of learning, like going out there, showing my face, speaking to people,
Hmm.
networking. So that side of it, I feel like I've done all right with. But
Yeah.
we just jump onto our next thing now, just
Yeah. Got you.
make moves.
yeah, no, Mia's come on leaps and bounds with just being more confident in speaking about the subject, the topics,
Mhm.
and just generally just confidence.
Mhm.
Well, it takes practice, doesn't it? It takes
Yeah.
time. When you know more about something, you naturally become more extroverted and confident.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just couldn't even do Zoom calls when we started up. Could I?
Listen, we've all had to start somewhere, right? We all started somewhere, you know. That's how we all are in the beginning.
Uh-huh.
Um, in terms of what our thoughts are for next steps, then
Hmm.
obviously we've gone through your course.
Hmm.
I've been following you for a while before deciding who I wanted to work with.
Hmm.
Um, Slowly but surely getting through the course, fitting it in the evenings and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
So obviously went through all the the rent to HMO stuff
Hmm.
and the additional rent to SA modules
Sure.
as well.
Yeah.
Um, and what our vision is then is, yeah, to do both essentially.
Hmm.
Um, but we'll obviously take your advice and want your guidance on that.
Hmm.
The way I see it and the way I've heard other people talk about it is that if you're going to do rent to rent, you ideally want to do both. One creates steady cash flow and
Sure.
makes up for the peaks and troughs of the SA business.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's my thoughts on moving forward.
Hmm.
We also want to make acquisition based investments as well. So whether that's doing flips, BRRs, to hold them long term and either to rent them out on a single let basis, a shared basis,
Yeah.
or even an SA based
Yeah. Yeah. Got you.
basis as well. So
Good
yeah,
plan.
that's the vision. That's what we're looking at.
I feel completely informed now. That's great. I understand where you're at, which is
Good,
good.
man. Good stuff.
So you say you're working through the course in terms of like action, like have you taken any steps in terms of like going and looking at deals or trying to get rent to rent deals, or are you still very much still in the early stages of just the
So
theory?
gone through all the theory. Theory's done.
Hmm.
In terms of putting stuff together, so leaflets and stuff like that, and all those bits that you've spoke about in the
Yeah.
course about putting together, creating all that stuff. That's all
Yeah.
created.
Okay. Good.
Maybe need a little bit of finalization before
Hmm.
sending them out,
Hmm.
but that stuff's done.
Hmm.
Um, Website. I've got two websites that I've put up. They're pretty much done.
Hmm.
Uh, Created them myself and done them on Canva and stuff like that.
Good.
Domains are all in place. Email domains and all that stuff is in place for that as well.
Yeah.
Um, so all that sort of back end stuff is ready to go pretty much.
Yeah.
Uh, it's taking that leap of faith to go
Mm.
to ring someone to
Mm.
go to a booking
Yeah.
and going, and if they were to turn around and say, yeah, we'd have everything boxed off and,
Yeah.
right,
Got
okay,
you.
let's go through the motions.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
I
Fair
think
enough.
there's just a little bit of fear factor there because,
Yeah.
I've never done it before.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And
I've been,
it's the confidence holding us back as well, the
yeah,
lack of confidence holding us back.
It's the
You know,
unknown, isn't it?
yeah, exactly. Fear of the
Mhm.
unknown.
Mhm.
Very normal. Wouldn't worry too much about that. It's just practice and reps like anything else,
Yeah.
and just maybe like mastering how to communicate it to landlords and agents is really where the key is.
Hmm.
And that just takes practice. You're gonna have to just be brave one day and go into these estate agents, have a chat, you know, maybe get some marketing letters sent out as well. Because
Yeah.
that creates more like warmer leads rather than having to warm people up to it.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. I mean, we've got some ideas on leads. Obviously, the stuff that you've suggested. Um, we've got some other routes that we're thinking about as well through people that we know that are
Hmm.
property owners and have a
Hmm.
portfolio of properties.
Yeah.
We've got the wider networks and groups that we work with. We also know a couple of mortgage advisors
Hmm.
that have a list of landlords
Hmm.
that they may potentially work with us with.
Yep. Okay,
So
cool. So whereabouts are you based?
we're in Manchester.
You're in Manchester, okay. And have you taken steps to get in the HMO register at all from the local council?
Yes.
Have you got that?
So yeah, so I've got the Salford, because that's where we're based in
Yeah,
Salford. So we've got the
Salford.
Salford Council one, and we've also got the Greater Manchester
Okay.
one as well.
Okay, cool. And they've got the actual addresses of the HMOs on them, not the
They've got the addresses of
the
the
landlords who own the
landlords
HMOs.
who
Brilliant.
own. Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's what we want. Because we've just been sending out letters on our latest campaign, and we've had I've already had some calls. We've only sent it out last week, and I've had a couple messages from landlords. It's an updated letter, so I'm not sure if you had the old one from the previous course, but I'll definitely include the latest one that we're using for you guys.
Cool.
And that we've definitely had some good traffic coming back from that already. Landlord was trying to sell me his 10-bedroom ensuite HMO yesterday on the phone. So
Yeah.
people are definitely warm to the idea and there's still demand for that type of service.
Good stuff.
It's just when you do get into that position where you are in that zone where you're about to maybe offer or close, you need to be able to communicate it clearly to them, you know? And it
Yeah,
sounds
yeah,
like you've got all of your other ducks in a row, you've got your website and everything else. So that will speak to the landlords in terms of your marketing and your message, but it will still need to be yourself or me, you know, closing on those deals and getting it over the line,
yeah.
which I think you're more than capable of doing.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've got, like I say, I've got a sales background.
Hmm.
Um, so closing is part of my repertoire and what I need to do on a day-to-day
Yeah.
basis. And typically I can get stuff across confidently
Hmm.
without the BS and
Yeah.
getting it, like I say, just getting it across in the right way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Being
Well, I think,
empathetic to the landlord and whoever
yeah,
else it is that need to be as well.
sure. Well, I think you just need to start implementing it in terms of like getting leads going throughout the week, you know, delegating yourself tasks and Mia to like what you're doing day to day in terms of like how many phone calls are you making, how many viewings are you arranging. It's all a numbers game, right? So you fill up the pot with as many leads as possible, and then, you know, some fall out of bed, some don't end up working out, but
Mhm.
you end up getting one or two that are solid. And they that's where you build the trust. You have a bit of a relationship with those landlords. You go back and forth, and if you put an offer over to them, they should accept it as long as everything else is in line and all your ducks are in a row. There's no reason why they wouldn't, you know.
Yeah,
It's just doing the reps, basically. There's not really many secrets to it. It's just a numbers game.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Um, what would you suggest in terms of like where the traction is more likely to come from? Should we start with direct to landlord, direct to vendor, or should we
Yeah,
go down the?
I would say you want to do both. Like what I tell most people is like the to speak to agents and stuff, it's going to be a lot more difficult, right? But it's still really good to practice that way because you
Mhm.
get to like fine tune your pitch and talking about the reps, it really helps you with that. So I think you should still be speaking with agents just to touch base with them. Like one of my first deals, I actually got the tenants through an agent. So I took the place on through an estate agent, but he actually, because I've been going back and forth with him and building that rapport, he sent me a contact number of a tenant who had walked into the estate agent asking to rent the same house that I had rented, but they were like a group of working professionals, like contractors.
Right.
So because I had that relationship with him, he actually sent me my tenants, and I worked with that company for, well, we still work with them now, and it's 7 years later. So building a relationship with agents is really important. It might not pay off immediately in the short term in terms of getting a deal from them, but something might
Yeah.
come later on down the line
Yeah.
that could be beneficial to your business. So I'd say do both. Use the agents for practice and for building that relationship and seeing what can come from it, but then also send the direct to landlord marketing letters because you want to be getting to the landlords before the property gets on the market, really, ideally, you know. Like this chap that's called me yesterday, he's just had some people move out and it's coming to the end of the year, so he's in that sort of transition period where he's trying to get things sorted for next year.
Mm.
Mhm.
So, you know, it's not fully on the market yet, but as a landlord, he's looking to find someone to just guarantee the rent to him for 5 years is what he's after.
Right.
So I would say do both. Like use the agents for practice and for perfecting your pitch and fine tuning your pitch, and then do the direct to landlord stuff as well, just because really and truly that's who you want to be speaking to, isn't it? The decision maker. And the online portals like OpenRent, you know, Gumtree, you can find landlords on there that will be advertising. No harm in giving them a call, dropping them a message. And you will need to move quite quickly because it definitely seems a bit more competitive than it was when I first started
Mhm.
in terms of like other companies offering guaranteed rent as well.
Mm.
Yeah. Mhm.
But that isn't something to deter you. It just means that you have to, if you do find a good deal, you need to move quite quickly. You can't like sit and stew on it for a little while.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
like this one that the landlords phoned me yesterday. I've arranged for someone to go and view it probably Monday or Tuesday, and if it is as good as he says it is, then I'll be looking to offer on it by the end of the week, sort of thing, you know.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
that's like 14 days, 10 days from sending out the letters. So it needs to be quite a small time frame, really, from marketing yourself to actually getting the deal done. Um, but it's just practice, guys. You know, it's just like anything. You just have to put the work in, do the practice, and what's the worst that can happen? They tell you no, you move
Yeah.
on, you hang up
Hmm.
the phone, you go again. You know, it's not the end of the world. But the more people you speak to, the more chance you've got of someone taking a liking to you, or finding a landlord who's in that transition period that I'm speaking about. And if you can move quickly, like you've got the funds there to move, then I don't see any reason why you couldn't get yourself a good deal. If not
Yeah.
before the end of the year, then definitely leading into the early part of next year, you know?
Hmm.
Mhm.
In terms of offering,
Mhm.
what's your typical offer? Do you put forward like a 3 month deposit, something like that? 3 months rent up front, or
No, so we try not to offer for deposits now. We try and just say look, we ask for a bit of a grace period. So what we do is we say we're going to guarantee you the rent for 3 to 5 years. But to guarantee that amount of money, we'd like a few weeks to get the place ready. So if all goes well with this landlord next week, we'd try and start first or second week in January would be when we'd start paying, but we'd ask
yeah,
to try and get in there before then
to set up?
to set up. Yeah, that's what we'd ideally ask. Obviously, that can be a bit more difficult for people who are starting out in the beginning, to pitch that, but it is very fair and reasonable to pitch that service if you are guaranteeing the rent for that amount of time, because there's not many companies that can do that.
Mm.
So it just depends, you could offer 2 months up front. That's pretty standard, isn't it? Most landlords want a deposit or the first month at least. But 3 months, I wouldn't try and go too much overboard and start promising too much. I think 2 months is completely fair.
Right.
And 1 month is also fair as well. But being a beginner, it might take you 2 months to get it over the line.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Just to give them that little bit of
Yeah, because
certainty,
yeah.
a bit more
Yeah.
confidence that,
Yeah. But if you're doing your marketing on the other side of it as well for like finding contractors and finding groups, then you could be potentially charging or agreeing with a group of contractors 2 months rent that they have to pay you up front pretty much as well. So if you time it well, you don't really feel like you're out of pocket because you've collected 2 months rent at pretty much the same time as
yeah.
getting the keys to the property.
And is that pretty normal then if you were looking to get a group of people into a HMO type property?
Yeah, it can be. It can be. I mean, it's just about lining things up. Like sometimes we'll put dummy ads up on Spare Room before we've even got the keys to a property, just to encourage that traffic. And
Yeah.
then the more nets you have in the sea, the more chance you've got of catching the fish, right? So when you've got relocation agents and different HR staff members looking for accommodation, you want to have ads in the relevant places so that you get their contact information and you can say to them,
Yeah.
well, I haven't got anything ready just yet, but in a few weeks' time I will do. And then you go back and that gives you a lot more confidence with your pitch when you're going into the agents and speaking with landlords because you've got groups
Got
of
someone
people
lined
that,
up.
yeah, and
Yeah.
it changes your whole tone and everything because like if I can just get this done, I've got someone who's willing to pay more than what I'll be paying the landlord, hopefully. So I think doing both simultaneously, like looking for tenants at the same time as like trying to find deals is you can find a good little sweet spot by doing both at the same time.
Yeah. In terms of approaching agents, then
Hmm.
obviously they have a bit of a process, isn't it, in terms of like referencing, checking your background, doing referencing, wanting to know how long you've been operating for,
Hmm.
and also,
Due
uh,
diligence.
yeah, doing the due deal and also wanting you to be like a guarantor
A
in some.
personal guarantor, yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So how do you think we should be approaching that?
Well, just whatever they need to provide them with end of the day. Like you can guarantee a personal guarantee to your business. You've got money, you've got assets. So it's not like, you could definitely guarantee a year's rent for a property. It's not gonna I don't see any reason why that wouldn't work.
Yeah,
I did that in the beginning. I didn't have any background. I didn't own any assets when I first started. So I used my dad as a guarantor in the very beginning. He only owns one house, but it worked at the time. I think they'd already built up a bit of a liking to me from sort of being a pest over the months. And they just thought, you know what, just give this guy something because he's just going to keep calling up type of thing. And yeah, putting my dad on the home let form as a guarantor, that seemed to be enough to get it over the line, you know. Um, but ultimately, if they like you and are starting to trust you, then those things aren't going to be deal breakers for them. You just need to be willing to do whatever they need you to do, and
Yeah.
it's ticking boxes basically for them.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And I guess there's multiple there's a couple of options there, isn't there? There's either being a personal guarantor,
Yeah.
um, or just being able to go through the referencing and showing that your company's been live for however long they want. And
Yeah, yeah. Some of them ask for 3 months of trading. Some of them want to see you've been trading for 6 months. It just all depends, really. You know, I've seen people walk in with no history, and get deals just because they've shown like screenshots of bank accounts with lots of money in. You know, that I've seen all sorts of things happen in my time where people just push things over the line if they trust you or not, and people do anything to build that trust. You know,
yeah, yeah, yeah. It just comes down to the individual on the other end,
it does.
how
It
much they
does.
want to see,
Yeah,
what fills
because
them with
yeah,
confidence.
because a lot of those agents they're on commission, aren't they? So if they can get someone over the line and get someone signed up, that's them getting paid. That's them. They've done their job, isn't it? It's not much deeper than that for them.
Mhm.
If you can stress to them that you could potentially be like a multi-buyer, where you could be renting multiple properties from them
Yeah,
over a consistent period of time, then that puts you in a higher category than just your average person walking in off the street trying to find a property to rent, you know?
yeah,
Mm.
yeah, yeah, for sure. What's your typical contract period? Do you tend to do 3 years, 5 years? Does it depend on the property, depend on the landlord,
It
or
depends. It depends. Like if it's a landlord that we really get on with and we have that synergy with, then we try and make it as long as possible. But in today's market, obviously that's a bit more difficult than it was when I first started. Like most landlords are going to want some sort of review after a year. You know, they're going to want to get a little bit more rent if they can, which is fine because you can also charge more rent at the back end for the
yeah,
rooms so yeah, I think offering the longer term is the way to go because that's what separates you from most other offers. But if they are willing, you know, they're probably going to want to say, well, let's do a year and see how it goes. So we've had quite a few deals where we've done that. We've just said do 12 months and then we'll see how it goes. And
see how we, yeah,
if it's working for both of us, then we'll continue it type of
yeah,
thing.
yeah, 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 yeah. You had a question about typical break clauses. What?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask,
Hmm.
we generally see like one break clause throughout the contract.
Hmm.
So is there like a way that we can do more than one break clause in the contract, or is it just generally just you just do one?
I've only ever seen one been used before, but I mean, it's your contract end of the day, so you can put as many additional notes in there as you want. That's the beauty of negotiation, especially when
Mhm.
it's with the landlord directly, because you know you're probably going to be using the estate agent contract. If you go through the estate agent, they're going to send you the contract and you'll sign it, which will probably be like a
Right,
company let agreement, and that'll
right.
be that'll be mostly their terms. If
Hmm.
you're working with a landlord, then you can have your own company let agreement or lease agreement, management agreement, whatever contract you use,
Yeah,
and you can adjust that accordingly to your business, you know.
Right.
So you could have more than one if you wanted to, but I think one's pretty standard. Most people like to have one break clause 6 to 12 months in, don't they, just to see.
Yeah.
But
Hmm.
I would say 12 months is probably best practice because not much happens in 6 months. You know, if you've
Yeah. Yeah.
paid down some money, made a little bit of money back, 12 months is probably where you can see the dust has settled a bit.
yeah. Okay. And that 12-month clause, that's mutual, isn't it? Well, that's works both ways, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah, because you don't want them to feel like they're tied into something they don't want to be in, right? It needs
Yeah,
to be like both of you understand the value in what both of you are bringing to the table, and if they like the service, then they can continue it. You know, that should be the way it's positioned to them. It's not like we have your house for 5 years and you're locked into this contract that can't do anything about. It needs to be a win-win for both parties involved.
yeah. I've heard some people who say that put in like a 3-month break clause, and that
Hmm.
way, to reduce um your own losses if the property weren't to work, or
Hmm.
if you wanted to get out of it early.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on that?
You could do that, but again, I would hope that with me being here and this is only our first call, so we do actually have other calls that we can do. You don't just have to have this one call. But I'd hope
Cool.
that with me being able to guide you guys, like I don't think that you necessarily would have to have a 3 month break clause. I'd like to think we'd do the numbers properly, and when it's time to pull the trigger, we'd actually take action on the right deal and make sure the numbers stack. So you wouldn't really need to have a 3 month break clause in there. It would make sense before you sign the deal, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But sorry, just going back to the point, and the point I was making is that him and I've read on a few others that have offered, who put us suggest to do like a very short break clause period, so like
Hmm.
3, 4 months or something like that,
Hmm.
to benefit them, so that if they don't see any money returning straight away, or if they realize like they've made a bad
Hmm.
decision, or whatever, they
Yeah.
can cut their losses and get out of it.
Yeah. I think that's just I've never heard of that before in my time. I think that's just a fearful way of approaching a situation. I think if you do everything right in the first place, you don't need to have a 3 month break.
Yeah. The other thing that I was going to come on to as well, with that type of break clause, my sort of fear, if you like, or
Mhm.
is that if you went into a contract and you had that 3 month break clause and you would put in a fair bit of money to refurb the place up,
Yeah.
then potentially you could lose that, couldn't you? Because
Yeah.
if the
It goes
landlord
both
turns
ways.
around, yeah, if the landlord turns around after 3 months and
Yeah.
says, "Nah, for whatever reason he wants out," that's your setup costs,
Yeah.
for refurbing the place. Obviously, you could take away your furniture or whatever else,
Yeah.
but you still will have put in money to refurb the place, right?
Yeah, this is why the relationship's so important. And it's not like you're going to just get a deal out of thin air. You need to like speak to these landlords, market to them, then go and meet them face to face, have a
Yeah,
chat, bring your notepad, work out what you need from the deal, what they need from the deal. It needs to be like a real mutual understanding. It can't just be, here's the keys, good luck type of
yeah,
thing. It really needs to be synergy between you both. Like they should be able to contact you on WhatsApp and you should almost feel not like friends, but there should be a rapport there,
yeah.
where this sort of stuff shouldn't really be happening if you've done the right steps prior.
Yeah, and what you've just described there is literally my relationship with my tenants,
Yeah,
where we're on WhatsApp. Every tenant we've ever had always been on WhatsApp, been able to contact. We've got that mutual understanding that if something comes up, you can contact me,
yeah,
and I'll try and get stuff sorted within 24
yeah.
hours.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the way that you just flip the coin and you would be the tenant as a company,
Yeah,
the landlord with a 5-6 bed HMO, and it's the same principles, clear lines of communication, and a bit of integrity.
yeah, 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 yeah.
I was just going to say, with us just starting up on this, would you
Hmm.
recommend us to start with a rent to SA or rent to HMO?
Whichever comes first. I like rent to HMO because I just think it's more predictable income. And that's how I started. So that's I would always advise you to go HMO first, but I've got students that are only doing SA and they're flying from doing that,
Yeah.
not far from you guys. So um it's whatever comes first, but ideally you want to have a mixed batch.
Mhm.
Um I think you should have both, but whatever comes first, really and truly, guys.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Long as
yeah.
long as the numbers stack.
Numbers work, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
we've been looking into essays more and more,
Mhm.
just because it's the thing, isn't it, that
Yeah.
everyone's doing
It's the
it.
buzzword, but it is seasonal and it can be up and down from my experience in it.
Yeah,
With the HMOs, it's pretty much consistent. If you're paying a landlord £1,500 a month and you've got tenants in there paying you 3 grand, then you're gonna make your 900, £1,000 every month, pretty much guaranteed.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
I think we should definitely get another call booked in,
Mhm.
because we're running out of time here. But I think yeah, it'd be good to spend a bit more time with you guys in terms of like actionable steps going forward, like what you're actually doing week to week, day to day. I think could be a bit more helpful to you guys.
Yeah.
Definitely,
Maybe we
definitely.
spoke once a week or something like that a couple more
Uh,
times.
yeah, yeah, that'd be perfect.
Yeah.
Honestly, that'd really be much
Yeah,
appreciated.
I mean, I want you. That's what we're here for. We're here to mentor you guys, and I think you guys have got a great chance of succeeding. So I think it'd be good to get something else booked in, maybe a couple more times over the next two weeks, just to really drum home exactly what we need to get done in terms of moving the ball forward.
Yeah,
Definitely. Yeah.
this is it. We're both in a position now where we can put our full efforts and time into it
Yeah.
without having to think about work and other stuff. Like I say,
Yeah.
I'm going to step away from my stuff. We're in a position where,
Give it all our focus
we
Yeah.
can
now.
keep our
Yeah.
focus
That's
and
what it needs.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, because we,
And I
we
think,
want to make it work for sure.
Yeah.
yeah,
This is now
Hmm.
we flipped that coin where, this is the time. We're going to do
yeah.
it. We're going to focus on it for a number of months and make sure it happens.
Hmm.
Well, it will happen with that attitude. It will, and with both of you there, you've got perfect mix. Like my missus does a lot of the operations side of things as well, and then I do a lot of the sales and marketing, and that seems to work for us. And sharing the load really does help things move forward. So I think between you, you can definitely make it happen. It's just turning up and doing the work.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and we're
Hmm.
not afraid of that.
No.
No, well, let's get
Ready
it done
to
then.
go.
Let's get it done then, guys. Let's get the work done.
Good stuff.
I've got some extra materials that I want to send you, but we're running out of time. So over the week or so, we will speak, I guess, in the group and get some extra PDFs and things that I've got that could help you from the new version of the course.
Yeah,
And get yourself booked in for maybe same time next week if you want to have another chat on Sunday.
yeah,